Carl Jung exposed. No one enters your life accidentally. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." What if the people who entered your life, every heartbreak, every betrayal, every sudden connection, weren't accidents, but assignments? In today's video, we're diving deep into the hidden meaning behind those encounters and why no one shows up in your life by chance. If you've ever wondered why certain people appear just when you're most vulnerable or most ready to grow, this message is for you. As you watch, ask yourself, who was truly a teacher in disguise? Share your thoughts in the comments whose arrival or departure shaped your path the most. Let's explore this spiritual truth together. 1. No encounter is random. People are assignments. Carl Jung believed that nothing in your life happens by accident. Every person you encounter is part of a spiritual assignment, a reflection of your inner world, sent not by chance, but with a purpose to awaken, teach, challenge, or mirror parts of you you've yet to face. These are not mistakes, nor are they random disruptions. They are catalysts placed by the universe, shaping your path of spiritual awakening in ways that often only make sense in hindsight. When someone enters your life and breaks your heart, it's easy to label it as misfortune. But Jung invites us to look deeper. That heartbreak may not be punishment. It may be revelation. A sacred interruption designed to expose an illusion you were clinging to, or a pattern you were unconsciously repeating. Betrayal, abandonment, rejection. These aren't just emotional wounds. They are energetic messages demanding your attention. They signal where you've been asleep to your own truth, where your boundaries are weak, or where your self-worth needs rebuilding. Every interaction is a mirror. That friend who disappeared without explanation might be reflecting your fear of being unseen. That partner who couldn't love you fully may be echoing the parts of yourself you've neglected to love. Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." This means if you continue to ignore the deeper purpose behind these encounters, you'll find yourself in repeated cycles, meeting the same soul in a different body, facing the same lesson wrapped in a new disguise. Modern life encourages us to move quickly, to block, ghost, and detach without reflection. But healing doesn't happen through avoidance. You can erase a name from your phone, but not from your energy field. That's why unresolved emotional dynamics reappear at work, in friendships, in love, until they are seen, felt, and alchemized. These so-called coincidences are in fact precision tools of the soul, drawing out your unconscious so you can heal what's been hidden and reclaim what's been forgotten. Spirituality is not about escaping pain. It's about understanding its message. Each person who stirs something intense within you is holding up a spiritual mirror. The ones who enrage you are revealing your triggers. The ones who adore you are confirming your light. And the ones who abandon you are showing you where you need to stop abandoning yourself. This is not chaos. It's divine choreography. You are not being punished. You are being awakened, one encounter at a time. In this light, every relationship becomes sacred. The question is no longer, why did this happen to me? But what is this trying to teach me about me? This shift from victimhood to awareness is the turning point of inner transformation. Once you begin seeing others as messengers, some gentle, some brutal, you no longer waste time in blame. Instead, you begin the real work of healing, integration, and self-reclamation. This is the path of spiritual awakening, not a smooth road, but a meaningful one, paved with people who each carry a fragment of your becoming. Do you believe no one enters your life by accident? If you're ready to see every encounter as a spiritual assignment, drop a comment below saying, "I'm ready to awaken," to show your commitment to this journey of spiritual wisdom and self-discovery. 2. The universe speaks through people, not words. The universe doesn't communicate with words, it uses people. Every person who enters your life serves a spiritual purpose. Whether they arrive with love, leave with silence, or shatter your illusions with betrayal. These aren't accidents. They are soul contracts, spiritual agreements made before this lifetime, designed to awaken the deepest parts of your being. Carl Jung reminded us, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." When someone breaks your heart, it's not fate punishing you. It's your soul calling you to break a pattern, to see what you've been avoiding, to reclaim the part of you that you gave away for love, for safety, or for validation. Some lessons arrive in soft hands and kind eyes. Others come through chaos and pain. But each is sacred. Each is a catalyst for spiritual development. When a friend disappears, it might be life teaching you to stop abandoning yourself. When love fails, it could be the mirror showing how you've stopped loving your own soul. You grow not just through peace, but through pressure. Not just through comfort, but through contrast. And the more you resist these lessons, the more the universe repeats them, not out of cruelty, but out of precision. Spirituality isn't about rising above the pain. It's about going through it, translating it, and seeing the divine message hidden in every encounter. Everyone you meet is a spiritual assignment. Even the ones who trigger your worst wounds are revealing where you've yet to heal. The more you pay attention, the more you'll see the pattern. That person didn't hurt you. They woke you up. That disappointment wasn't a failure. It was your initiation. True spiritual awakening begins the moment you stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is this trying to show me about myself?" Because the people you attract reflect the energy you carry, the beliefs you hold, and the healing you still need. When you accept that, life no longer feels random. It becomes sacred. It becomes the classroom where every heartbreak teaches you boundaries, every rejection teaches you self-worth, and every goodbye makes room for your next evolution. This is how your soul grows. Through people, not promises. Through disruption, not comfort. And that's the hidden order behind the chaos. Every person is a divine messenger disguised as coincidence. 3. Painful relationships are often sacred lessons. The betrayal, heartbreak, or ghosting you endured was never just emotional pain. It was spiritual initiation, a kind of soul surgery meant to remove the illusions you once clung to and force the growth your higher self had always called for. What seemed like rejection was actually redirection, and those who walked away didn't leave to destroy you. They left to reveal the parts of you still searching for validation, still bleeding from wounds you hadn't yet dared to touch. Carl Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." These people were not random. They were archetypes, divine assignments dressed as temporary companions, sent to expose what needed to be healed within you. When you begged the universe for strength, for clarity, for wholeness, did you expect that it would arrive as comfort? No. It came as disruption. Because spiritual wisdom doesn't whisper in safe places, it roars through chaos. That friend who vanished when you needed them most didn't fail you. They reflected your fear of abandonment. That lover who betrayed your trust wasn't your downfall. They were your shadow in disguise, bringing to light the parts of you that still believed love must be earned through sacrifice. These moments of heartbreak weren't accidents. They were mirrors, designed by life's greater intelligence to help you evolve beyond the versions of yourself that were built on survival instead of self-worth. Every painful goodbye taught you that your healing does not depend on anyone staying. Your wholeness was never meant to be built around another person's approval. And once the people who no longer served your highest path were removed, space was created not just for peace, but for power. The deeper truth is this: no one enters your life without spiritual meaning. Each connection is either a mirror, a teacher, or a catalyst. Some stay to remind you of your light. Others leave to trigger your transformation. But all of them serve your expansion. The gift of Carl Jung's insights is that he didn't see human relationships as coincidences. He saw them as contracts, agreements between souls made long before this lifetime began. Even the people who hurt you the most may have loved you enough to play the villain in your story, just so you could rise, reclaim, and return to yourself. That is the intelligence of the universe at work. And the more conscious you become, the less you blame and the more you bless. Because pain didn't break you, it built you. Because loss didn't leave you empty, it stripped away what was never truly yours. And now you finally see. The endings weren't the end. They were sacred beginnings in disguise. If you believe that painful relationships carry sacred lessons meant to awaken your soul, comment below, "I embrace the lesson." 4. Letting go is spiritual alignment, not abandonment. When someone exits your life without explanation, it's not always abandonment. It's often divine alignment disguised as silence. Letting go isn't a tragedy. It's an initiation. In the path of spirituality, we are not called to cling. We are called to awaken. When a relationship ends without closure, your ego may scream for answers, but your soul already knows. It's done. The contract is complete. Continuing to hold on only delays your growth, binds your energy, and suffocates your peace. You don't need their apology to heal. You don't need a final conversation to move forward. What you truly need is the courage to release what no longer aligns, without labeling it as rejection or failure. The mind demands explanation, but the spirit seeks liberation. Carl Jung taught us that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. That unconscious craving for closure often masks a deeper fear of being unseen, unloved, or left behind. But spiritual awakening is the process of becoming whole enough to provide that closure yourself, from the inside out. It's the sacred art of choosing alignment over attachment, peace over people-pleasing, truth over tradition. You honor your path not by convincing someone to stay, but by respecting the signal that their time in your life has served its purpose. Trying to force clarity from someone who has already energetically departed is like shouting into an echo chamber. It leaves you emptier, not fuller. Modern life romanticizes endurance, telling you to hold on, fight harder, wait longer. But true power lies in the ability to walk away from what no longer expands you. Letting go doesn't mean you no longer care. It means you've chosen to care for yourself more. It means you're willing to close a door without slamming it, without bitterness, without making yourself smaller for the sake of staying connected. In spirituality, letting go is not passive. It's potent. It's an act of deep self-respect, an affirmation that your worth isn't defined by who chooses or leaves you. If someone exits your life without explanation, let that silence be your teacher. Let it reveal what you were avoiding, what you were hoping to be rescued from, what you were afraid to face on your own. Peace comes not from holding on tighter, but from loosening the grip. You don't need a goodbye to move forward. You need honesty, presence, and trust in the divine unfolding of your journey. Because the deeper truth is this: every departure creates space for something more aligned to enter, not just in your relationships, but in your identity. Letting go is not abandonment. It's the moment your soul finally breathes. 5. You are also the mirror in someone else's life. While you're busy unpacking the pain someone left behind, the betrayal that shaped your walls, or the love that cracked you open, don't forget you've been that same force in someone else's life. You weren't just a character in their story. You were a plot twist, a revelation, a turning point. Maybe you were the reason they finally set boundaries. Maybe your silence taught them to hear their own voice. Perhaps your presence made them believe in miracles again, or your absence forced them to rise. You were the storm and the calm, the question and the answer, the wound and the remedy. You were the reason they cried, or the reason they healed, or both. And that isn't something to feel guilty about. It's something to honor, because it means you've been part of the sacred pattern of transformation that threads every soul together. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." But what if fate isn't just about what happens to you? It's also about what you cause in others, unknowingly. What if your energy walked into a room and activated something ancient in someone else's heart? What if the way you loved, or walked away, or stood your ground became a mirror that shattered their illusions and began their spiritual awakening? In the realm of spirituality, nothing is random. Every encounter is an assignment. Every goodbye is a redirection. Every ache is a doorway. And sometimes, you are the one holding the key to someone else's locked part of their soul. That's why spiritual development is never just about looking inward. It's about seeing yourself as a soul woven into the great cosmic web, where your light and your shadow ripple outward. You are not invisible in the lives you've touched. You are unforgettable in ways you'll never fully know. So live with awareness, speak with presence, walk with reverence, because you are the message someone's soul was waiting to hear, the mirror they needed to face, the catalyst they'll never forget. Leave a like and subscribe to our channel, Spiritual Wisdom. And don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you never miss content that helps you grow spiritually. Comment below. I am a mirror of divine love and healing. If you're ready to embrace the sacred role you play in others' lives. 6. The wrong people teach you the right lessons. Those who disrespected you, abandoned you, or manipulated your trust were not random encounters. They were mirrors of your inner wounds, teachers in disguise revealing the parts of you still waiting to be acknowledged, healed, and reclaimed. Carl Jung taught us that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. These so-called wrong people didn't appear to destroy you. They were summoned by your soul to awaken the spiritual intelligence sleeping within you. Their betrayal wasn't a punishment, it was a portal. Their absence wasn't rejection, it was redirection. And their manipulation wasn't meant to shrink you. It was meant to show you where you still gave away your power. The truth is, people treat you as a reflection of how deeply you've treated yourself. If you tolerated disrespect, perhaps it was because a part of you still didn't know how worthy you were of reverence. If you feared abandonment, maybe it's because you hadn't yet committed to never abandoning yourself. These individuals entered your life not by mistake, but as part of a divine pattern encoded in your psyche, a spiritual contract designed not to harm, but to initiate. Every painful relationship cracks open a layer of illusion. The illusion that love must be earned, that worth is negotiable, that peace comes from pleasing others. Through their actions, they exposed your unconscious beliefs and gave you a mirror sharper than comfort ever could. And this is where the real spiritual wisdom begins. When you stop blaming them and start listening to what your soul was trying to teach you through them. Pain is a compass. Disappointment is feedback. Every ending is a lesson in energetic alignment. They did not break you. They handed you the keys to your own liberation. When you begin to see life through this lens, you move from confusion to clarity, from victimhood to vision. You realize that the universe doesn't send you people, it sends you reflections. And each one arrives with a message. Remember who you are, reclaim your worth, restore your boundaries, and return home to yourself. So no, you weren't cursed. You were being carved. You weren't overlooked. You were being initiated into a deeper dimension of awareness. The ones who hurt you were messengers wearing masks, and when their role was complete, they disappeared. That's not rejection, that's divine timing. And if you can see this clearly, you'll understand that nothing in your story was wasted. Not a single tear, not a single goodbye, not a single sleepless night. All of it was the curriculum of awakening. This is not just psychology, it's spiritual intelligence in motion. It's the language of the soul calling you to rise. 7. Energy doesn't lie. Learn to trust it. Your soul recognizes truth long before your mind can rationalize it. And that recognition is not imagined. It's energetic intelligence speaking through you. Carl Jung believed in energetic resonance, a subtle spiritual force that reveals what the surface hides. When someone enters your life and leaves you feeling drained, uneasy, or confused, that isn't just a bad mood or social mismatch. It's your soul signaling misalignment. Likewise, when someone feels like home, like you can exhale around them, it's not mere chemistry, it's vibrational harmony. In a world obsessed with logic and appearances, your energy remains your most accurate compass. Whispering truths, your intellect may be too slow or too conditioned to grasp. Jung taught that nothing is random, and that the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. That transformation happens on the level of energy before it becomes emotion or action. People are either batteries or black holes to your spirit. And the sooner you learn to read the signals, the less time you spend trying to rationalize red flags or minimize your intuition. The uneasiness in your chest, the tension in your stomach, the invisible wall that forms when someone's presence tightens your breath, these are not coincidences. They are sacred alarms from your higher self saying, protect your light. Your energy doesn't lie. When you feel drained after an interaction, it's because there was an energetic withdrawal. When you feel inspired, safe, and expansive, it's because your spirit has found resonance. Spiritual awakening means shifting from ignoring these signals to honoring them as divine guidance. You are not being too sensitive. You are being aware. Protecting your energy is not selfish. It is essential. In a society that glorifies tolerance and rational explanations, the boldest move you can make is to trust what you feel. Not everyone is meant to stay. Not everyone who smiles is safe. Not everyone who listens deserves your vulnerability. And not everyone who appears kind is aligned with your highest good. Energy reveals intention long before behavior does. That's why learning to feel without defending, to observe without excusing, becomes a spiritual superpower. You no longer have to wait for proof when your body and spirit already know the truth. If someone's presence feels like pressure, if their energy feels like chaos dressed in politeness, you are allowed to withdraw without guilt. If someone makes your soul feel seen, peaceful, and strong, you are allowed to trust it without doubt. You were never meant to abandon your own frequency to maintain proximity to those who dim it. Energy doesn't lie. It guides. It protects. It reveals. And in the language of the soul, resonance is the only truth that matters. If this message has resonated with your soul today, type in the comments, I trust the energy guiding my life. And don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a moment of spiritual awakening and divine insight. 8. Letting go makes room for what's meant to find you. Letting go is not a weakness. It is one of the highest acts of spiritual development and inner intelligence. When you release what no longer resonates with your soul, you begin the sacred process of becoming who you truly are. Holding on to people who were never meant to stay only delays your evolution and clouds your clarity. Carl Jung reminded us that what you resist not only persists, but grows stronger. Resistance is rooted in fear, and fear is the opposite of trust. Trust in divine timing means surrendering the illusion of control and making peace with impermanence. Those who walked away, those who broke your heart, those who left you in silence, they were not random. They were mirrors, messengers, soul contracts sent to awaken the deeper parts of you. Their exit was the lesson, not the punishment. Their absence was the space your spirit needed to grow. Letting go does not mean forgetting. It means honoring what was, while no longer allowing it to limit who you're becoming. When you release the weight of unmet expectations, the pain of old identities, and the need for closure from those who can't give it, you clear the energetic room for what is destined to arrive. You stop being a prisoner of your past and start becoming a magnet for alignment. Spirituality is not about clinging. It is about flowing. True power is quiet, and it emerges when you no longer beg for validation or chase what's meant to find you. Letting go is the beginning of remembering your worth. The moment you choose to stop begging for crumbs, the universe begins preparing a feast. When your heart is open but unattached, when your love is pure but not desperate, when your soul is present but not confined, you shift from survival to expansion. This is the path of awakening. To detach not from people, but from the illusion that your value depends on their presence. And in this sacred release, you become who you were always meant to be: light, whole, free. 9. You were the answer all along. The healing, the love, and the truth you searched for in others were never outside of you. They were always waiting in the quiet chambers of your soul. Every time you reached for someone to complete you, to heal your wounds, to make you feel worthy, you were chasing an illusion rooted in forgetting. You weren't broken. You were simply disconnected from your essence, from your own spiritual wisdom. Carl Jung once said, "Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes." And this truth becomes clearer as you realize that every moment of pain, abandonment, or rejection wasn't punishment. It was redirection. Life wasn't hurting you. It was revealing to you the places where you abandoned yourself. That heartbreak that shattered your world. It was an invitation to come home. That betrayal you thought you'd never survive. It was a divine mirror showing you where you gave your power away. These weren't just painful moments. They were sacred assignments. Spiritual awakening is not a grand arrival, but a quiet remembering. You don't need to become someone new. You need to remember who you were before the world taught you to forget. You are not meant to shrink, to dim, or to edit yourself for anyone. The truth is, the more you return to your authentic self, the more your external life begins to realign. When you reclaim your soul, you begin to attract not from desperation, but from presence. Carl Jung warned, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." So many live on autopilot, repeating inherited beliefs, acting out unresolved trauma, and calling it destiny. But when you pause and witness your patterns, you reclaim choice. And that is true intelligence, not just mental brilliance, but emotional clarity, energetic mastery, and soul awareness. Every time you set a boundary, say no to chaos, or walk away from what drains you, you are not being harsh, you are being holy. To choose yourself is a sacred act. You are not waiting for a savior, a sign, or a soulmate to validate you. You are the one. And the moment you stop outsourcing your worth, the universe mirrors that shift. Life isn't random, it's reflective. You don't manifest from wishing, you manifest from remembering. The person who betrayed you was not an accident. The one who ghosted you wasn't your destruction. They were your catalyst. They helped awaken the parts of you that were still asleep, still looking for love in places that could never hold your depth. And so, you stop blaming, stop chasing, stop proving. You begin to see that no one enters your life without reason, and no version of you that ever had to survive was wrong. She was just temporary. You were the answer all along. Stay connected with our spiritual wisdom community by subscribing to the channel. Here, we uncover the deeper meaning behind every connection and awaken the truth within. Remember, you were never missing anything. You were the answer all along. You are whole, worthy, and guided. Let your journey of spiritual awakening continue with us. 10. The most powerful love is the one you give yourself. Real love begins the moment you stop running after those who don't see your worth and finally turn inward to embrace the sacred presence of your own soul. It's not found in the arms of another, but in the decision to stop betraying yourself for temporary comfort or shallow validation. When you choose yourself without apology, when you no longer need to be chosen to feel whole, you rise into a higher vibration, and that is when spirituality becomes your foundation. You stop attracting chaos because your energy no longer aligns with it. Instead, you become a mirror of the love you now embody, and relationships begin to reflect the wholeness you've cultivated within. This is not just emotional healing, it is spiritual awakening in its most powerful form. When you start honoring your own boundaries, listening to your intuition, and protecting your peace, the universe responds with clarity. The noise fades, the drama disappears, and what remains is truth. Jung understood this deeply when he said, "Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakes." Because the journey isn't about being desired, it's about becoming aligned. Every time you refuse to beg for attention, explain your worth, or tolerate disrespect, you tell the universe that your love is not up for negotiation. Choosing yourself is not a punishment to others. It's a declaration to the divine that you are ready for relationships built on resonance, not rescue. You stop confusing chemistry with compatibility. You stop calling emotional roller coasters love. You begin to understand that peace is the new passion, and self-respect is the new romance. There is no greater act of spiritual intelligence than knowing when to walk away with grace and when to stay with the soul. The deeper you fall in love with yourself, the less you fear solitude, the more you trust timing, and the more magnetic your presence becomes. That's when people feel drawn to your light without even knowing why. Because when you love yourself fiercely, you don't chase, you attract. You don't prove, you simply are. That kind of self-love is rare. It's quiet, steady, and unshakable. And it transforms everything it touches. And remember, no one enters your life by accident. As Carl Jung taught us, every encounter is a mirror, every connection a message, and every heartbreak a doorway to deeper self-awareness. If today's message stirred something within you, take a moment to reflect. Who in your life might be a spiritual assignment in disguise? If this video brought you clarity or inspiration, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom. Tap the notification bell so you won't miss the next soul-expanding insight we share. Your journey of awakening is just beginning, and we're honored to walk it with you. See you in the next video. Empaths were never born to heal. Here's the dark truth Carl Jung discovered. As Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." What if the reason you feel overwhelmed by the emotions of others isn't because you were born to heal them, but because life is urging you to discover a deeper truth about yourself? In this video from Spiritual Wisdom, we'll uncover the hidden reality behind why empaths were never meant to carry the world's pain and how this understanding can set you free. As you listen, I encourage you to reflect. Do you recognize this pattern in your own life? Share your thoughts in the comments because your story may inspire someone else on their journey of spiritual awakening and growth. 1. Empaths are not healers, but mirrors of the collective shadow. Empaths are not healers in the traditional sense, but mirrors of the collective shadow. And Carl Jung's insight makes this undeniable. Their deep sensitivity is not a supernatural gift to take away pain, but a psychological pattern that transforms them into containers for all the emotions humanity represses and denies. They do not just feel sympathy. They absorb shame, fear, anger, and grief that others cannot face. This hypersensitivity is overwhelming. Yet Jung understood it as a hidden pathway towards spiritual awakening rather than a weakness. Until what is unconscious is brought into awareness, it directs life from the shadows. And the empath's constant battle with emotional overload is living evidence of this law at work. In modern society, this struggle has grown heavier. The digital world bombards men with stress, competition, and endless noise. An empath may believe his exhaustion comes only from the demands of his job or family, but in truth, he is also carrying the silent rage of his coworkers, the hidden disappointment of his partner, and the unspoken grief of his children. Every interaction becomes a silent transfer of energy, and the empath is left drained, anxious, and confused about why he feels broken. This happens because he is unconsciously serving as a sponge for what others refuse to acknowledge. Jung saw that empaths are not victims, but reflections of society's shadow, revealing the collective wounds no one wants to see. Understanding this is the first step toward reclaiming strength and entering a true spiritual awakening. The shift comes when an empath recognizes that the emotions overwhelming him are not solely his own. The role is not to heal others by absorbing their pain, but to awaken by reflecting the truth of what exists beneath the surface. Just like a mirror reflects both light and shadow without keeping it, the empath is meant to reveal what is hidden and then release it. When you begin to see the shame, anger, or fear as projections rather than personal flaws, the weight becomes lighter. The despair that seems yours may belong to society itself. The insecurity that lingers may be inherited from generations before you. The anxiety that grips you could be the collective panic of a world spinning too fast. Once you discern this truth, you no longer drown in feelings that were never truly yours. You awaken to clarity, and that clarity brings freedom. For men navigating the pressures of adulthood, this realization is especially powerful. Between 30 and 65, the demands of being a provider, protector, and leader are constant. The empath, however, carries not only his own struggles, but also absorbs the invisible burdens of others, which makes life feel unbearably heavy. This is why boundaries become a necessity, not an option. Spirituality teaches us that boundaries are not walls of rejection, but gates of clarity. By saying no, by guarding your inner space, you do not lose compassion, you gain strength. You learn to reflect without clinging, to witness without collapsing, to feel deeply without being consumed. This practice of setting limits is what allows an empath to live with balance and purpose. Jung's revelation shows that hypersensitivity is not a curse, but a compass. It directs the empath towards spiritual growth by forcing him to confront what most people deny. The awakening is found in understanding that you were never here to heal the world by sacrificing yourself, but to grow by recognizing the shadow for what it is. Once this becomes clear, life no longer feels like an endless struggle with invisible weights. It becomes an opportunity to live with awareness, to notice every emotion you carry, and to ask with honesty, is this truly mine, If it is not, you let it go. That release is not weakness, but power. The power to reclaim your own life. The power to walk lightly, even in a heavy world. And the power to embody spirituality, not as an escape from reality, but as the strength to face it with freedom and truth. Are you ready to embrace the truth that empaths are not healers, but mirrors of the collective shadow? If so, comment below. I accept the truth to show your courage on this journey of spiritual awakening. 2. Empath suffering comes from absorbing what isn't theirs. Empath suffering is not born from weakness, but from carrying invisible weights that were never theirs in the first place. Many empaths live through chronic exhaustion, deep anxiety, and waves of depression because they unknowingly absorb the unresolved emotions, fears, and suppressed shadows of other people, as well as the collective unconscious of society. This constant absorption is not a flaw in their spirit or proof of fragility. It is the effect of what psychology calls emotional contagion, combined with the activity of mirror neurons that cause them to reflect and embody what others are feeling. Carl Jung revealed that empaths are not healers whose role is to endlessly soak up pain. Instead, they are mirrors for the collective shadow of humanity, reflecting back the shame, anger, grief, and fear that most people refuse to confront within themselves. What feels like unbearable personal suffering is often the burden of countless unseen projections pressing into one soul who feels too deeply, leaving the empath disoriented, fatigued, and unsure of why peace is always out of reach. This explains why even the simplest social interactions can feel overwhelming. When a friend shares their heartbreak, the empath feels the ache in their own chest. When a colleague carries hidden anxiety, the empath's pulse races as though it were their own panic. These are not imagined sensations. Neuroscience confirms that mirror neurons in the brain activate whenever we witness another person's state of being. And for empaths, these neurons fire so intensely that the line between mine and theirs dissolves. Over time, this blurring creates a cycle of emotional and physical fatigue that feels endless. Spirituality teaches us that we are all interconnected, yet true spiritual development requires discernment. It teaches us that connection does not mean we must carry the entire weight of humanity within our own nervous system. Jung's dark but liberating insight was that the empath's role is not to serve as a bottomless vessel for pain, but to awaken as a reflector of truth. Every surge of emotion that feels unbearable may not be a call to heal or absorb. It is a signal, a message that unacknowledged wounds are surfacing, not just within individuals, but within the collective whole. The empath, in this sense, is a living mirror, showing humanity what it most fears to see in itself. Without awareness, this gift turns into a curse, trapping the empath in cycles of depression, anxiety attacks, and chronic depletion. But with awareness, the very same sensitivity becomes a profound strength. When you pause, when you breathe, when you learn to separate "this belongs to me" from "this belongs to them," you no longer live as a sponge, drowning in what is not yours. You rise as a mirror, a truth teller, and a guide toward collective healing. From this understanding, several lessons unfold for your own spiritual development. The first is that exhaustion, anxiety, and depression are not always signs of your personal weakness, but often signs that you have carried too much of what does not belong to you. The second is that awareness itself is a form of power. When you learn to distinguish between your authentic emotions and the emotions projected onto you, you reclaim the energy that has been scattered and drained. The third is that healing does not mean absorbing the pain of others. True healing comes from standing firm, reflecting truth without taking it into your body, and allowing others to face what they have avoided. And the fourth is that spirituality invites you not to live as a rescuer of the world, but as a grounded soul with healthy boundaries, knowing that your presence is most powerful when you are not depleted. Being an empath is not a sentence to lifelong suffering. It is an invitation to awaken, to grow spiritually, and to embody the truth that sensitivity, guided with wisdom, is not fragility, but one of the most extraordinary strengths a soul can carry. Comment below. I release what is not mine. If you're ready to stop carrying the weight of others and step into your true power. 3. The empath-narcissist trauma bond. The empath-narcissist trauma bond is one of the most devastating patterns Carl Jung revealed because it shows how human intelligence, spiritual wisdom, and unconscious desire become entangled in a dangerous dance of projection. The narcissist, unable to carry the unbearable weight of their own shadow, instinctively seeks out the empath, who with heightened sensitivity and openness becomes the perfect vessel to absorb what the narcissist cannot face. Jung once warned, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." And this truth plays out with chilling accuracy in the bond between empaths and narcissists. For what feels like destiny is often unconscious pain-seeking expression. When an empath enters such a relationship, they believe they are stepping into love and connection. But in reality, they are stepping into an illusion. They see the narcissist's brokenness and feel compelled to heal it, not realizing that this urge is part of their own unconscious projection. Jung described the empath's golden shadow, the hidden reservoir of power, confidence, and resilience, which is often projected onto the narcissist. The empath sees strength in the narcissist that they have not yet claimed in themselves, while the narcissist sees in the empath an endless supply of compassion and light to drain. This exchange creates a toxic fusion. The empath gives away their light, and the narcissist empties their darkness into them. What begins as admiration soon turns into dependence, manipulation, and ultimately betrayal. At first, the narcissist showers the empath with attention, reflecting back their intelligence and sensitivity, making them feel seen and valued. Yet beneath the surface, the narcissist's insecurities begin to consume the bond. Gaslighting emerges, twisting truth into lies until the empath doubts their own perception. Manipulation becomes constant, eroding the empath's sense of self and replacing their spiritual wisdom with fear, confusion, and dependence. Because empaths are loyal and deeply compassionate, they stay even when their spirit knows the truth. They mistake the cycle for destiny, whispering to themselves, "I was born to heal them," when in reality, as Carl Jung's insight reveals, empaths were never born to heal, they were born to awaken. The suffering of the empath is not weakness, it is evidence of their mirror-like role in humanity's collective unconscious. Every wave of exhaustion, every panic attack, every moment of suffocation is proof that they are carrying not just their own emotions, but the disowned shadows of others. Jung reminded us, knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darkness of other people. And here lies the great lesson. The empath cannot save the narcissist, for the narcissist does not wish to face themselves. Instead, the empath must turn inward, reclaiming the golden shadow they projected outward, remembering that the strength they saw in the other was always their own. When betrayal comes, it is both shattering and liberating. The illusion collapses, and the empath realizes that the power they admired in the narcissist was never theirs. It was a reflection of their own dormant intelligence. The darkness they carried does not belong to them and must be released. In this moment of rupture, the empath stands at a threshold, to remain broken or to transform. It is here that shadow integration begins, the process Jung described as terrifying but ultimately freeing, where the empath learns to hold both their light and their darkness without giving either away. The truth emerges with clarity. The empath is not a healer of others, but a revealer of truth, a mirror showing the world what it refuses to see. And the privilege of their lifetime is to finally become who they truly are. 4. Individuation, the alchemical transformation. Betrayal and suffering do not come to you by accident. They come as the raw material of transformation, as the furnace where your soul is tested and your character is refined. And Carl Jung called this process individuation, the alchemical journey where the heavy lead of pain is transmuted into the gold of wisdom. For empaths, this truth is even more profound, because their suffering is not only their own, but also the pain they have absorbed from others, carried unconsciously as if it belonged to them. This is why life often feels unbearable for an empath. The exhaustion, the confusion, the constant flood of emotions that never seem to end. But here lies the hidden key. Your sensitivity was never meant to chain you to victimhood. It was meant to initiate you into a higher level of discernment, to awaken you to the difference between what is truly yours and what belongs to the world around you. When betrayal shatters your illusions, it strips away the masks of those you once trusted. And though the pain is sharp, it forces you to see clearly where lies end and truth begins. Suffering, in this way, becomes a ruthless but honest teacher. Jung knew that without suffering, there is no growth, for it is only in the fire of pain that the false layers burn away, leaving behind the essence of who you truly are. For an empath, this means no longer mistaking the darkness of others for your own soul, no longer drowning in collective shadows projected onto you. It means saying, "This belongs to me, and that does not." And in this act of separation, you begin to reclaim the territory of your own being. In modern life, this individuation manifests in very practical ways. It means refusing to carry the resentment of a bitter colleague into your home. It means setting boundaries with family members whose emotional chaos has dominated your peace for too long. It means no longer scrolling endlessly through the digital noise of society until you lose yourself in its storms. Instead, you pause, breathe, and return to your center, realizing that true spirituality is not about absorbing everything, but about choosing consciously what aligns with your soul. This is the turning point where empathy evolves into wisdom, where compassion is no longer a wound that drains you, but a conscious act rooted in strength. An empath who has awakened understands that compassion without limits destroys the giver, while compassion with boundaries empowers both giver and receiver. To embody this balance is to evolve from victim into sovereign, from a man who bleeds endlessly for others into one who carries himself with authority and conscious love. Jung's reminder echoes through this transformation. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And who you are is not the sum of others' projections, but a sovereign soul who knows his worth, who extends compassion not because he is forced to, but because he chooses to, wisely and freely. Every betrayal you have endured, every moment of suffering that left you broken, has secretly been preparing you for this alchemy. They were never punishments, but initiations. They were never meant to destroy you, but to break open the illusions so that your spiritual awakening could begin. And as you step into this awareness, you realize the greatest truth. You were never born to heal everyone else. You were born to awaken, to separate what is yours from what is not, to embody discernment, and to radiate a strength that no longer drains you, but instead elevates you into the man you were always destined to become. If these insights on individuation and the alchemical transformation resonate with you, make sure to like this video, subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom, and share your reflections in the comments. Let's continue exploring the deeper truths Carl Jung revealed together. 5. The Sovereign Empath's New Power. The Sovereign Empath's new power is not about absorbing shadows, but about reflecting them back with unshakable clarity, forcing others to face the truth they spend their lives avoiding. This shift is not born out of bitterness, but out of wisdom. Because through spiritual development, you realize that carrying the burdens of others is not compassion. It is self-betrayal. Carl Jung's insight reminds us that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. And as a sovereign empath, you embody this principle by refusing to let the unconscious projections of others take root in your soul. Your compassion evolves from self-sacrificing to discerning, from endless giving to boundaried love. And this transformation makes you a powerful presence that cannot be manipulated by narcissists or consumed by false systems. They find you dangerous because you have become a mirror of reality, no longer absorbing the chaos they project, but reflecting it back, stripping away their illusions and leaving them face to face with the darkness they cannot deny. As your empathy matures, you begin to see that true spirituality is not about healing everyone else at the cost of your own energy, but about honoring your soul, setting boundaries that protect your light, and allowing others to grow through the lessons of their own pain. You no longer rush to rescue every wounded heart or broken spirit, because you understand that rescue often delays transformation. Instead, you stand firm, radiating presence, and in that presence, people feel the discomfort of their own shadows rising. This discomfort is not cruelty. It is the beginning of their awakening, because only by facing what they fear can they grow. You are no longer the sponge soaking up emotional toxins, but the mirror that returns those toxins to their owner, a mirror that whispers, "This is not mine, it is yours to face." That is the true power of the sovereign empath, silent, steady, and unmovable. Your very existence becomes a lesson. By refusing to bleed for everyone, you show others that love does not mean self-destruction. By setting boundaries, you model the truth that respect for self is the foundation of respect for others. By reflecting shadows, you reveal that every human being must claim responsibility for their healing. And in doing so, you embody the deepest essence of spiritual development: growth through truth, strength through self-respect, and compassion without collapse. Your role is no longer to sacrifice, but to embody sovereignty, to stand in your light without apology, and to let your presence be the catalyst for others' transformation. That is why you are no longer exhausted, no longer drowning in collective pain, because you finally understand that your gift was never about absorbing, but about awakening. And that awakening begins the moment you stop carrying what was never yours. 6. The collective shift and archetypal evolution. The collective shift we are experiencing today represents a profound archetypal evolution, one that Carl Jung anticipated when he revealed that the unconscious holds the keys to human destiny. For so long, empaths have carried the heavy archetype of the suffering healer, believing that their purpose was to absorb the world's pain and sacrifice themselves for others. Yet this role was never their true destiny. Spiritual wisdom now shows us that this old archetype is dissolving, and in its place emerges a higher form, the sovereign mirror. You, as an empath, are not here to endlessly heal by carrying burdens that do not belong to you. You are here to reflect, to awaken, to embody the light of intelligence that exposes the unconscious shadows humanity has tried to hide. Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." That is the very essence of your gift, to mirror back what others cannot see so that awakening can take root. This sensitivity you carry is not weakness, it is intelligence, a refined form of spiritual perception that gives you access to truths hidden from most. When you feel the flood of another's emotions, you are not meant to drown in their chaos. You are meant to witness it, to name it, and to return it to them as a reflection of their inner world. In doing so, you free yourself from the prison of martyrdom and become the sovereign mirror, one who reveals without absorbing, who awakens without losing themselves. This is where Jung's insights meet modern thought, like Rupert Sheldrake's morphic resonance. The principle that when one soul individuates, it sends ripples through the collective unconscious, reshaping the possibilities for all. By refusing the outdated role of the suffering empath and stepping into your sovereignty, you initiate a shift not only in your life, but also in humanity's collective operating system. Your transformation becomes a signal that others can attune to, and suddenly, the wave of spiritual awakening accelerates. Jung described individuation as the deepest calling of the human spirit, the journey of becoming who you truly are. For the empath, individuation is liberation from being the dumping ground of everyone else's projections. It is the courageous step into sovereignty, into being a conscious mirror that reflects truth with clarity and wisdom. The martyr empath archetype, exhausted, drained, and defined by suffering, belongs to the past. The emerging archetype is the sovereign mirror, an awakened presence who is no longer consumed by others' shadows, but who reflects them back with intelligence and spiritual wisdom. This evolution is more than personal healing. It is a collective reprogramming, a rewriting of humanity's symbolic code. As Jung so powerfully stated, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. To embody this truth as an empath is to embody a living symbol, an energy that inspires transformation simply by existing in its authentic form. Your exhaustion, your overwhelm, your sense of drowning in emotions are not signs of weakness, but signals that you are carrying a new blueprint of awakening. The empath who steps into sovereignty is like a system update for humanity, upgrading the collective consciousness to a more intelligent, harmonious state. No longer the silent martyr, you become a catalyst for awakening, a mirror that forces others to confront their shadows and grow. This is not about endless healing. It is about sparking awareness, igniting intelligence, and awakening spiritual wisdom across the human family. To live as this sovereign mirror means standing firmly in your truth, practicing deep discernment, and refusing to carry what does not belong to you. It means recognizing that your sensitivity is not a curse, but a sacred intelligence, a reflection of the collective unconscious that you are destined to illuminate. In this way, your life is not only your own, it is a ripple of awakening spreading through the morphic field of humanity. The old empath archetype of suffering has completed its role, and now the archetype of sovereignty, intelligence, and reflection rises. You were never born to heal endlessly. You were born to awaken, and in that awakening, you carry the power to transform the world. If this message on the collective shift and archetypal evolution has spoken to your soul today, declare it in the comments. I embrace the evolution of my spirit, and I am ready for transformation. 7. Final truth. Empaths were never meant to heal others by taking on their pain as if their bodies and minds were a vessel for suffering. Because when you try to live this way, you do not awaken anyone. You only silence yourself beneath the weight of wounds that are not your own. Carl Jung revealed that the true nature of the empath is not sacrifice, but reflection. Just as a mirror does not absorb what it reflects, neither should you absorb the chaos of those around you. Your presence is not meant to be a container of shadows, but a revealer of them. And in this revelation lies the essence of spirituality and the path of true spiritual awakening. When you reflect what others cannot see, you force them to face the truth of their own unconscious, and this is the beginning of real healing. To embody this role requires sovereignty. It means standing in the authority of your own being without collapsing under the projections, fears, and unresolved traumas of the people in your life. Too often, empaths mistake obligation for love, convincing themselves that to carry another's burden is to be noble, when in reality, it is to abandon the self. Jung's wisdom shows us that carrying the darkness of others is not compassion, but avoidance, because it allows people to continue escaping their responsibility while you slowly disintegrate beneath the pressure. Your task is not to be a savior, but a mirror, one who embodies truth so powerfully that those around you can no longer run from what they must integrate. This is not cold detachment. It is the deepest form of love, the kind that does not lie to keep others comfortable, but reveals so they may finally awaken. Modern life gives us countless opportunities to practice this. In relationships, many men believe they must fix the emotional storms of their partners, absorbing anger, sadness, and resentment as proof of devotion. Yet all this does is erode the foundation of the bond. At work, countless leaders carry the weight of their team's insecurities and failures, mistaking this for leadership, when in fact, leadership is the capacity to hold space without drowning in it. With family, many sons spend decades dragging the unhealed shadows of their fathers or mothers, believing that this sacrifice will heal generations. But the truth is, healing begins when one man chooses sovereignty and shows the lineage that it is possible to live differently. In every sphere of life, the empath is tested, yet in each test, the choice is the same. to collapse under projection, or to stand as a mirror of consciousness. This path is not about rejecting empathy. It is about refining it into wisdom. To embody sovereignty is not to harden the heart, but to protect it so that it can reveal truth rather than drown in lies. It is to recognize that your sensitivity is not weakness, but a form of intelligence, a finely tuned awareness that can perceive what others deny. Spiritual awakening comes when you stop confusing empathy with self-destruction. When you understand that your power lies not in carrying the shadows of others, but in revealing them with such clarity that they can no longer remain hidden. In this, you become a force of transformation, not through sacrifice, but through presence, not through bleeding for others, but through embodying the integration they must seek for themselves. And so, the dark truth is clear. Empaths were never born to heal the world's wounds, but to awaken to the shadow it hides. The real power lies not in carrying others' pain, but in reclaiming your own soul's strength. If this message has opened your eyes today, I invite you to be part of our growing community here at Spiritual Wisdom. Don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to the channel. And make sure you turn on the notification bell so you never miss our upcoming videos on spirituality, Carl Jung's insights, and the path to true transformation.